All right, have and have not fans. Here's the episode review for season 7, episode 8. Yeah, season 7, episode 8, The Heavy Lifting. Let me put it this way. Did I enjoy this episode more than the past 2 weeks? Last week I gave it a 4 out of 10. The week before that, a 3 out of 10. Up front, yes, I think that this episode was better than the previous two. I didn't notice that much repetitive dialogue. That was one of the big factors of last week for me. I'm half and half, to be honest. And no, I'm not giving this episode a 5 out of 10. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. But at the same time, I did feel like some scenes felt a bit too dragged on. And look, guys, before you comment, I know this isn't an uncommon thing for Tyler Perry writing, but when I do these episode reviews, it's a case-by-case basis. I'm going to talk about the things I noticed more in this episode than, let's say, how it compares to an episode for 3 weeks ago. So keep that in mind. The first 10 minutes, and again, not a bad episode, just I was really waiting for something to actually happen. The first 10 minutes of the episode had to do with David, being shaken up by what he saw in Jeffrey's room. I will admit, I thought it was actually kind of cute the way Jeffrey's face lit up when he asked Madison to dinner. That was actually, I liked it. And I was on Twitter last night too, guys. If you were live tweeting, I was there as well. I even tweeted out that it was a cute moment, if nothing more than the fact that we got to see Jeffrey happy for a moment. I mean, when was the last time we saw his face light up like that? And Madison joking around, yeah, maybe you asked me on a date. I think that's supposed to come before the sex. So, yeah, they decide to go out. I'm just waiting for Justin to come ruin that at some point. But I do recall, because I know Chandler and a few other people were telling me about how there's an episode coming up, Banana Foster, or is it Bananas Foster? That's the episode 10, aka the mid-season finale episode title. No synopsis revealed just yet, I believe. I think on Wikipedia it says something along the lines of Jim is plotting revenge or something like that. But Bananas Foster might be a reference to Madison and Jeffrey's date, because, I looked it up. I didn't know what Bananas Foster was. I'm like, is this like a reference to something, a particular title to a person? No, it's actually the name of a dessert. So I'm assuming they go to dinner and then Banana Foster is like the dessert. And make your banana jokes. Yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to the episode. Not much to say here. They agree to the date. Madison comes downstairs. David is trying to, keep himself preoccupied to look distracted. Madison makes it an awkward moment, but it was kind of funny. And then he leaves. That's pretty much the first 25% of the episode. Again, not complaining, but I feel like, then David and Jeffrey agree, like, we'll talk about it later. Is that okay? It's like, sure, Dad, sure. And it's just like, David handled this a lot better than Veronica. So, I mean, obviously, I feel like he's obviously still shaken from it, but at least he didn't ridicule them, call them out of their name, or make homophobic slurs. So, yeah, David honestly being a dad in that moment. And still interesting that he didn't mention anything about not being his dad, but whatever. Okay, so then we go to Selene and Veronica. A nod to continuity. That's one thing I'll give this episode. There were several nods to things that we haven't seen or have referenced in years. For example, Selene response to Veronica saying about, hey, would you like a drink? And it's like, oh, you drinking again? Remember that, episode 1 when Hannah first got her job and, Veronica came over to Catherine's and was saying that, she wanted like some sparkling water or whatever, a reference to, the fact that she was in rehab and she stopped drinking, but then she picked up that habit, not too long after the whole Maggie Day situation, when she first suspected her and David being together. So Selene, continuity-wise, knows that the last time she interacted with Veronica or even saw her around, she wasn't drinking. So I like that. That was a nice touch. But the overall, this entire scene, Veronica's trying to help Selene sue for child support, pain and suffering. The fact that you're working at both a burger joint and a hospital. But then again, remember, David was supposedly suggesting that Selene gets fired. So I'm assuming this hasn't happened yet. And if it does, that's even more reason for Selene to sue, because she's only working at a burger joint while her oldest son, Carlos, is going through college, while the youngest son should be in private school right now. And Celine's just going to think about it. I mean, to be honest, I don't blame her. This is Veronica Harrington. I know some people might be thinking like Veronica, like Selene, what the hell? This is like the golden ticket right here. Veronica isn't to be trifled with. Like Selene was saying, it's like you've never spoken to me. We've never interacted, and I know how you are. And it's like Veronica is aware. At least she's self-aware. It's like, yeah, you're on my good side. You're actually on my the good side with me on this situation, which doesn't mean that Veronica wouldn't do something to sabotage Selene's life in the future, if nothing more for shits and giggles. I mean, literally, she just said, I'm Veronica. I keep the drama coming. And once again, it's like, what's that story called? The Monkey's Paw, where you make a wish, but there's always a hubris to it. Like, there's always a negative impact. So, yeah, she is right to be cautious. But so Veronica would just want to get back at the criers. So I will say that in this situation, yeah, Selene, right to be cautious, but don't think about it too long. Obviously, that doesn't take long, because at the end of the episode, Veronica serves you in the papers, but we'll get to that later. Then we go over to Oliver, Landon, and Charles, and I'll do a combination breakdown here. We have the original scene with Oliver giving Charles some paperwork, but it's the wrong one. Landon one-ups him. So basically Oliver is, a bit embarrassed. Kyle arrives, and Oliver's just standing there until Landon's like, yo, come on. And I was a bit, and again, not that this was bad, I was kind of disappointed. I was waiting for like Charles to kind of chew Kyle out or whatever, but no, all he simply said was, you're going to be replaced, and that was the end of that. I don't know if that was Charles making Kyle feel like a false sense of security. I know that he sent Conley to the Attorney General's office to ask some questions. Is he still building his case in regards to his revenge for Kyle trying to take Charles down? This scene was a bit, obviously it served more for the Oliver Landon story than it had to do with Charles and Kyle. So I was a little disappointed, but then again, if this is building towards something in the next several episodes, then I'm okay with it. And I'll just jump ahead to the next Landon Oliver scene. This is one of those scenes where it's kind of obvious that Oliver is either going to be killed off or he'll attempt to kill Landon in the near future. And it's one of those things I really hate. It takes a character and then dials up their personality, like a personality trait, like Oliver's insecurity, and then like turns it up to like 15. And it's like, yeah, that's not doing it for me, because you're literally making it painfully obvious he's either not going to make it to the end of the season, or, as I just said, attempt to kill Landon or somebody else. And yeah, and all I could think about was Friday, as soon as Oliver left the office and Landon was like, I felt like Smokey. What was it when what's his face? When Red, what was it, Red? When Debo took his chain, he's like, man, my grandmama gave me that chain. This is fucked up. And then he goes to the car, and then Smokey like, he gonna cry in the car. Yeah, that's pretty much all I thought about this entire scene. Yeah, I'm not saying I was the biggest Oliver fan, especially that ridiculous hair. But again, just to turn him into like this crybaby, I'm not going to lie. I'm not crazy, but I'm the same way. I don't really like being one up or embarrassed in front of someone, especially like in a professional setting. But at the same time, you have to understand that a job is a job. If I messed up, then, it's understood that my superior is going to clean it up. I might not like it, but at the same time, that's how it is. So I can understand his demeanor. I just don't like how it was portrayed. So, yeah. All right. So then we get to, this is the last chunk of the episode that I'm like not too keen on, but then we get to the end of the episode. That's when it gets good at the hospital. So we get to Hannah going to the jail. The funny part about this is obviously Wyatt and Catherine are side by side here, are right across from each other. And Wyatt goes to Hannah, will you pray for me? No, man. What about like episode 2 or 3, pray to me, when you were telling Hannah, no, pray to me, Hannah, pray to me, I'm God. God is tired, Hannah. What happened to all that bravado? You were God, remember that? I thought she was supposed to pray to you, not pray for you, but hey. And Catherine pretty much calls him out on the bull crap. He's just trying to act nice in order to get his parents to drop charges so he can get out here. I got some bad stuff, man. those drugs. That really does beg the question, what the hell did RK give Wyatt? Remember, Wyatt was complaining because RK had given him less drugs than he had the first time. But that didn't explain what the hell RK gave him. And RK is gone. So, we don't know what the hell went on there. So, then those two go to the back room to talk, and they break down the executor situation. Hannah talks about this. Hey, Benny's all right. I thought he was shot, but he wasn't. Okay. And guys, I'm trying to be less ranty in these videos, but once again, we get to the money, and okay. So, Hannah gets the explanation of being the executor, what that means, what that entails, what she has to do. Okay. And Hannah isn't going to be starting at the hotel anytime soon. Let's make it through this me getting arrested thing, and then we can work on you working at the hotel. So we can figure out that Hannah won't be working anytime soon. She'll be holding a powerful position, which is head of the estate. It reminds me of Joseph and Potiphar from the Bible, where I forgot the book, but where Joseph is sold into slavery, but then by being a good steward of his work, he's like second in command under Potiphar. I know obviously he is put underneath Pharaoh as well, but Potiphar, I cannot pronounce Potiphar. I know there's different pronunciations based off the animated movies I used to watch as a kid. That's my disclaimer. And, then things get weird when the wife actually tries to seduce Joseph, but then he refuses and gets put in jail. But basically, he gets put into a position of power and authority by being a good steward of his task. And Hannah is kind of the same way. Two things about this scene. Number one, Catherine asked Hannah, did you want to know if I did it or not? And that begs the question, would Catherine actually tell the truth? After breaking it down with Chandler in the conversation last night, I was hesitant to say that she would, but honestly, I think that Catherine would have told Hannah the truth. But as Hannah said, it's probably best that I didn't know. So from there, we also look at the fact that Hannah agrees to be the executor. And then we talk about the money, and Catherine talks about, look, I get it. That's messed up what Jim did. But obviously, if you give the money back, he's going to stop. Hannah's uncertain, but to be fair, yeah, if you get, I'm not condoning what Jim did, but he said, Jim may be a lot of things, but for the most part, he is a man of his word. So if you give the money back, the assaults will stop, which makes logical sense because Jim has bigger fish to fry than, Benny Young. So when Hannah is doing the same old, no, I think she's going to give it back, or no, I know her and Benny were going to the bank. Hannah, no, you don't. And look, again, I'm trying to keep my composure here. You all know I want to rip into this part of the episode, but I'm just done. I just don't even have it in me to rant about it anymore because I'm just so over it. It's like, I don't even think Hannah can convince herself about her children doing the right thing because of how long it's taking them. On top of that, Catherine didn't even say a damn. I think she might have made a look, but she didn't say a thing about Candice. But then Hannah instantly went into, Catherine, that's my daughter. Shut the hell up. I understand it. That's your child. A parent wants to be protective. What makes, and I know that Hannah being a hypocritical Christian has been a topic of discussion since season 1. There have been people who have not liked Hannah since the beginning of the show based off like, what kind of Christian would like curse and, hit her daughter and whatnot? Well, not to make this about race, but look, growing up in a black household, yeah, Christian mothers lay hands on their children. It happens. So, not to mention for far less than what Candice has done. But anyway, what gets, and people have said this in comments in the recent videos, and it makes sense. Hannah's quick to call out like, Jeffrey, you need to get some help, or, Wyatt, this and that. And, Catherine, your son did this, and, shouldn't you let your son get arrested and pay for what he did? Remember when they were covering up the hit and run? It's like, that's the right thing for you to do, to put Wyatt in jail. But you won't You won't even let anyone say one wrong word about your children. Again, I get it. Parents want to be defensive, but your children are far in the wrong. This isn't like a simple, well, your kid took my kid's bicycle, or they borrowed the video game, but they didn't give it back. We're talking about over $8 million. So this whole you acting like, oh yeah, I think, no. Hannah, these are the big dogs, man. This isn't even street stuff anymore. You're dealing with the wealthy. So it's like you live in an area where people get shot and killed probably over like $10 or a drug deal gone wrong. So you have, knowing that your child has over $8 million of a wealthy white family, and you act like, oh no, they're going to come after so-and-so again. No, just drop it. And Catherine is absolutely right. Like, I mean, honestly, Catherine's obviously in a situation where her hands are tied, or in this case, handcuffed. So it's a situation where, look, you're the only person I can really trust with this. And I feel like if circumstances were different, Catherine might have been like, well, I don't think I could put you in charge of being executor until that money is returned. So I don't know. I don't want to harp on it. I'll probably do a separate video. So let's get on with the review. This review is getting longer than it should be because honestly, I don't even have a full page of notes. So then Hannah, I don't know why she did this. She decides to tell Benny, who tells Candice that, oh yes, I got power of attorney. I'm going to be in charge of this woman's every time. Why would you tell this? Okay, so then we go over to the Iron Bone bar, and I was mad, like, why does Candice want Benny to go to the bank? We find out at the end of the episode. But, yeah, so Benny is making excuse after excuse and just being a man-child. And, okay, so Mitch, I don't know why. Okay, first of all, why does Hannah tell Benny to make sure Candice goes to the bank? You're telling this to the child that clearly doesn't want to give the money back. Yeah, Hannah, smart move. Okay, so Benny goes to the bathroom, whatever. So Mitch is telling Candice about the money because it's like, you're plotting, aren't you? And kudos to the couple of people who have been saying this in the past few episodes, like Candice having her arms crossed. I didn't think anything of it. Somebody's like, oh, is Tinka pregnant? She's covering her stomach a lot. Never thought of that, but that was a good observation. But no, body language, her eyes, the plotting, it made sense. So kudos to you all. And Mitch is like, I can tell in your eyes about this money. You don't want to give it back. And it's like, well, I mean, if you decide to keep it, because like what, your mom's head of all the estate now, right? And, you know, if you want to keep the money, hey, I'm a Malone, baby. I can make it so, you know, Jim wouldn't come after you at all if you decide to keep it. So let's just skip to the end of the episode. I'll say the best. Yeah, I'm getting to the hospital scene. So we get to the bank. Benny's just acting like a freaking 4-year-old, a 5-year-old that doesn't want to be there because he's waited too long. That was just embarrassing to see, to be honest. Just to, you know, like imagine being the bank teller and you have this grown man not wanting to hand over his ID. That's the writing is doing nothing to help Benny's character. That's all I'm saying. But in any case, turns out that Candice has opened a new account for Benjamin Young and is going to send Jim $8.35, even though Benny clearly was sitting right there. He wanted to bitch about it. And then $1 million was sent to Benny's account. So with this being said, I guess you could say that Candice is going to keep the money because she's pissed at Jim for what he did to Benny. And I wouldn't be surprised if Candice slid some money over to Mitch for his services, because I remember a while back when the money was in her possession, she said that she would get Mitch a car or something like that. I forgot how much she said she would give Mitch. Yeah, so that way if Mitch gets a new car, Sandy will stop making fun of him for it. Yeah, so the money saga continues, unfortunately. But based on the preview for next week, at least it seems to be rooted once again in a Candice versus Jim scenario, which kind of is a back to basics format, but I'm not a big fan of this storyline, as you all know. And let's move on to not the final scene, but the best part of the episode for me. David goes to see Jim in the hospital. He's still, you know, shaking over the experience with Jeffrey. And it's kind of funny how David took getting his back basically turned into a burnt hot dog after that car explosion better then walking in on Jeffrey and Madison. It's kind of interesting. And basically they're talking about the scenario of, okay, I'm working on an immunity deal with George to put Veronica away for good. And that should actually help. And no, Jim is hesitant about it because honestly, kind of like Selene is hesitant. And it's kind of interesting when you think about it. David is trying to deal with George in order to put Veronica away for good, but Jim is hesitant about it because of George's demeanor. Whereas Selene, Veronica wants to use Selene in order to get revenge on Jim and the Criers, but Selene is hesitant to get involved with her because she knows Veronica is truly a double-edged sword. And that actually is a good little comparison there. And it's interesting how Jim brings up the situation about Selene coming in there looking for, child support and money. And, he pretty much, told her off. And then David is like, well, given the connection between you two, don't you think it should be a bit more sensitive to the subject? And it's kind of like, well, David, you're the one who worked behind their backs in order to get Selene fired from the hospital, which hasn't happened yet. So I don't really know why you're starting to have a heart. So, basically, Jim is saying that, hey, say the word and I'll be sure to handle Veronica. I'll make it a big accident. That way we're not connected to it whatsoever. Speak of the bitch. What did Jim say? Speak of the double bitch. Veronica comes in, my lord. Okay, so let's just skip over the basic parts. So Veronica's there to serve the documents about Selene suing Jim. So we got that. And then they have their exchange. And honestly, best part of the episode. Oh boy. Okay, there's so much to unpack. And yes, I will be doing separate videos on this, but bravo to the fans who have for years said, I think Candice Tattoo is a main person, or Candice T here on YouTube. She's one of the main ones who have been saying, I wish David and Catherine would end up together and this and that. I'm like, you're crazy. No, I apologize. Well, technically, I apologize for saying you're crazy. But at the same time, in terms of fan fiction, I don't think Catherine and David will end up together. But confirmation that David and Catherine had sex on Catherine and Jim's wedding night. And I do believe it was stated that Jim and Jennifer had sex on Catherine and Jim's wedding night in the hotel room next to theirs. And I'm like, holy shit. So yes, not only that, Veronica and Jim have had sex twice. Holy crap. If you go back to the pieces of the puzzle, I believe was the name of the episode, it was hinted at, but no. Jim has a little PP according to Veronica. And there was also a time where they had drunk sex as well. I believe the first time David and his brother were at a conference, and then didn't Veronica say drunk sex too? So Candice alluded to this way back in the early episodes of the series during the $100,000 in sports car plot, where she said, Amanda tells me everything. Like this one time, it was your birthday. You got so drunk that you passed out. Then Jim and Veronica had sex. Well, young lady, first of all, you need to get your facts straight. I've never had a drink of alcohol in my life, which was a lie. It was retconned about 20 episodes later. But in any case, holy crap. So the Criers and Harringtons are apparently swingers. Interesting. And I don't think this opens the floodgates to, oh my God, is David Wyatt's real father? Is David Amanda's father? No, I don't think that's the case at all. Even though it technically could be true, but no, I don't think so. But in any case, yeah, that was a crazy ending. And overall, David gives Jim his blessing to take care of Veronica. So, I mean, it's kind of bold of Veronica to say, hey, guess what? You're not Jeffrey's real father. Your friend, your colleague, William at the job, at the courthouse, he's the real father. You almost die underwater. And then now you tell David in front of Jim, you talk with Jim in front of David and you say that, hey, guess what? Your best buddy, we had sex twice. And then you don't expect anything to happen. And then the references to past things like, Jeffrey stabbing Veronica in the implant, chest. Or, what was another one? Damn. They were going back and forth. It was some good stuff going on here. Shoot. I feel bad because I should have jotted this down, but this was a great scene because of the nods to continuity in previous seasons and things we haven't even heard or had reference in quite some time. But of course, Wyatt shooting Jim, which isn't really new, but the fact that these two were really going at it, and I was loving it. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen these characters interact, if I'm not mistaken. So to actually have Veronica going back and forth with Jim was a sight to see. And then David, stone cold the entire time. I'm thinking the entire time, yeah, David's still shaking up over seeing Jeffrey and Madison. So he doesn't really give a damn about what Veronica's doing. Because if this was like season 1 or season 2 David, he would have tried to kill Jim, literally. And to think of his indifference to telling Jim that he slept with Catherine on their wedding night, I don't think he was lying. I think that David was literally telling the truth, which begs the question, okay, David was not as faithful as I thought he was, and there's no telling how many people he slept with. So, oh my God, this is insane. Maybe him and Jennifer did do something because as George told Veronica about Jennifer and David, oh, but it was a rumor. I don't think it's a rumor anymore. You never know. I think these videos talking about the affairs will be more interesting than anything else this episode presented, just to kind of put that out there. So, yeah, Selene's going to sue Jim with the help of Veronica, but if Jim takes her out, I wonder if that was actually going to happen. Not to mention the whole money situation, doing the right thing by giving the money back to Jim would be interesting because guess what? That money would just be automatically shifted to Hannah. So there you go with that. And Candice is just making things worse for herself because if Charles and everything works out, guess what? She's going to be in so much deep shit she might not be able to get out of it this time. And that's going to be its own separate video. Me and Chandler had like this back and forth conversation about how the Malones could get involved. And Candice is messing around with the powers that be. And I mean, I don't think Mitch can really use that Malone name without it being stuck to him at some point. What I mean by that, he's going to get into family business whether he wants to or not. And that lie he told about $75,000, it's going to come back. Remember, it was $50,000 to save Wyatt, then about $20,000 plus interest for Benny. So, we'll just have to wait and see. All right, guys, that's all I got for this episode review. 7 out of 10. How'd you like it? I kept my composure. I didn't rant too much. And I think we got, 2 episodes left. Hopefully they're really good. What is it? Boom, Boom, Bang, and then Banana Foster. So we'll just have to wait and see if Tyler Perry can stick the landing on this mediocre season. This was the first, since like the first episode I thought was halfway decent. But let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel. Make sure you check me out on social media. Links in the description below. And with that being said, I'll talk to you soon.